Welcome back to the RIOT ACT. My name is Rishi Rajagopalan. Little known fact, I was actually a walk-on football player for the Ohio State Buckeyes. They immediately asked me to walk off, but for those 10 seconds before I got tackled by the strength and conditioning coach, I truly felt the magic of college athletics. As you may know, college sports are governed by the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or the NCAA. The NCAA oversees 24 different sports played by over 1,000 schools that are split up into 3 different divisions. D1 sporting events are what you're probably familiar with. Think March Madness or the Rose Bowl. D2 and D3 consist mostly of schools like Slippery Rock or the Delta State Fighting Okra.
Okra, huh? That's a bold choice.
Don't tell me you believe in that urban legend. I mean, have you ever seen the okra? Wait, I can explain.
Does Gumby have an evil twin we don't know about? That thing is terrifying. I'm not gonna lie though, I feel like he'd look pretty good battered and fried. So what makes college sports different from professional sports? Well, for starters, the players are not paid money. Jameis Winston is making millions of dollars in the NFL now, but as a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback at FSU, the only payment he got was some crab legs. And why is that? Well, the NCAA views student athletes as amateurs, meaning they can't make any money without losing their eligibility. This rule isn't just tied to money made from sports.
Just having fun, a young man having fun in his free time, making little videos to help motivate and inspire others. And I get deemed ineligible to continue playing college sports because of it. Oh man. I may seem unbothered right now or whatever it may seem like. Well, no, I'm definitely torn apart inside, man.
That is Donald De La Haye, aka Destroying, once a promising young kicker on the UCF football team, who by 2017 had built a popular YouTube channel. But because his channel was monetized, the school and the NCAA claimed he was profiting off his athletic ability outside of his school-granted scholarship. The NCAA gave him an ultimatum: stop making money off his channel or walk away from college athletics forever. De La Haye bet on himself over his scholarship. And while this gamble paid off to the tune of nearly 4 million subscribers, think of the countless other college athletes who've made similar gambles that didn't work out. The point is that they shouldn't have ever had to make those decisions in the first place. So the NCAA takes things away from student athletes. But what exactly do they give them? Well, it's not very much. They weren't exactly founded on the principle of learning. In fact, their origins are actually tied to safety concerns over football in its early stages. President Theodore Roosevelt gathered representatives of the sport at the White House to discuss assembling a body to govern the dangers football presented, which, as we all know, have been completely eradicated. Right?
Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah, here comes the, here comes the, here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that.
Here comes the CTE! Fast forward to the present, and the NCAA regulates and organizes all collegiate sporting activities. In Divisions 1 and 2, schools can give students scholarships, which the NCAA doesn't pay for. And that's it! No providing for families, helping with job placements, allowing for other revenue streams. I thought this was the land of the free, not the land of the free labor. See, in most other countries, sports are played at academies or clubs prior to the professional level. For example, a rising youth soccer star would join Barcelona's academy to play on their youth team, as opposed to playing for a university or Ted Lasso. How do you still not know what a fucking offsides is? It's been 2 seasons, bro. And the biggest difference? In most cases, they actually get paid. Clubs will relocate families, cover medical and schooling expenses, and yes, even provide actual contracts for their athletes. The NCAA bans all of these things, but that doesn't mean they don't happen under the table. Oklahoma State hired Cade Cunningham's brother, Duke bought Zion Williamson's mama house, and Odell paid LSU players in straight cash, homie. The problem with the NCAA is they still prioritize the student and student athlete, or at least they pretend to.
Ben Simmons was benched because of academic reasons.
I have to be getting better every day. I'm not worried about my oceanography class.
He's a one and done player. What do you expect? He's not going to school to become a damn doctor.
Okay, Maybe Ben Simmons should have stayed in school. It could have taught him some important lessons, like how to build furniture or shoot a basketball. But the real problem is that these kids have never had a voice. People have tried to change that, attempting to unionize players or create alternate bodies to represent these athletes' needs. But the NCAA never backed down. That is no longer the case.
You obviously brought the bill here with you today. When you put pen to paper right now, what's this going to change and what's it going to do?
It's going to initiate dozens of other states to introduce similar legislation, and it's going to change college sports for the better by having now the interests, finally, of the athletes on par with the interests of the institutions.
I cannot wait for the anonymous GM article about how Rich Paul is ruining politics. I wonder what Adele thinks about this. I heard she addressed it on her new single, Easy on Maury. Introduced by Senator Nancy Skinner and signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, the Fair Pay to Play Act prohibited California colleges from punishing athletes over endorsement money and got the ball rolling across the nation. The NCAA resisted, of course, claiming that athletes being unpaid was a major part of their consumer appeal. But this isn't 1619, and on July 1st of this year, a Supreme Court mandated overhaul of NCAA rules went into effect, and NIL was born. NIL is shorthand for an athlete's ability to sign endorsement deals and profit from their name, image, and likeness. Keep in mind, schools still aren't permitted to pay them salaries or benefits, but at the very least, they aren't punishing them for getting a bag on the side. And since the NCAA left individual states to create their own rules, that side money is coming in wonderful ways.
My name is DJ Uyong-Lele, here eating Bojangles with my two offensive linemen.
It's bow time, baby! Ooh, this food is too good!
Too good.
If NIL wasn't evil enough already, it's now turning Clemson coach Dabo Swinney against his greatest love, Bojangles. But of course, the NCAA aren't the only ones salty about paying their workers.
First of all, I hate this conversation because we're talking about a college locker room. Right. You're just talking about money, and I apologize again. I'm very old-fashioned that I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to have the parent come in and see me and say Alabama's left tackle is getting $60,000 a year and we're only getting 40. I'm not quite sure where to go with that conversation. So I do believe that's coming. I do believe there's going to be three issues. Number one is going to be locker room. I do believe there's going to be an issue in there. Number two is the recruiting, the inducement, the fact that certain schools will probably have really good NIL programs. And then think about this, Jerry. I think the mental health of a student athlete is even going to be more challenged.
Urban's analysis isn't exactly what it used to be. Although it was never really that good to begin with, was it? NIL being the death of equity in college recruiting is ridiculous. Since 2000, 50% of blue chip recruits go to the top 10% of college football programs. Going to a top Power 5 school is already such a boost to your profile as a major recruit. Getting paid to do so isn't changing that. Trevor Lawrence was never going to be a Delta State fighting okra. Although nowadays, he might wish he was. Bourbon Meyer's point about mental health is laughable. Athletes being able to put more food on the table during school is never going to add more stress to their lives. How stress-free do you think it is seeing your coach be the highest paid public employee in the state while you put your body on the line for free? But to Urban's dismay, players are now getting paid. So what does that mean for the institution built on their free labor?
Today is the most significant day in the history of the NCAA, and that is not an understatement, Fitz. Because of what is crumbling today, the model of the NCAA is coming down, and you can never put it back up again. The fact that the NCAA is really worthless after today is also a very significant moment.
See, the thing is, NIL wasn't the only blow NCAA President Mark Emmert suffered. This former Back to the Future bully turned Newt Gingrich impersonator has been taking L's in court like he's the MyPillow CEO trying to stop the steal. First, in June, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the NCAA was acting in an unconstitutional monopoly by limiting the amount of educational expenses athletes could be compensated for.
So it was a unanimous Supreme Court that ruled on this. In a concurring opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who coaches high school basketball and who tried out for the basketball team at Yale and didn't make it, has pretty strong feelings on this. And he said nowhere else in American business can a company get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. The NCAA is not above the law.
Yeah, that's right. The The NCAA is in such bad shape that Brett fucking Kavanaugh said, hey guys, this is too far, even for me and Squeak. That ruling allowed the NCAA to join thoughts and prayers as America's last remaining bipartisan traditions. But if that wasn't enough, in September, the National Labor Relations Board General Counsel issued a memo where they made clear that they consider college football players at private institutions employees, not student athletes. See, this memo is a big deal because as the law stands today, college athletes can't form a union because they aren't recognized as employees under the National Labor Relations Act. If you're thinking this is nuts, you're right. Everyone from your RA who staples condoms to the bulletin board to the barista shitposting on Yik Yak while making your caffeinated milkshake has collective bargaining rights. They can strike for dental insurance, demand higher pay, and form a union. The only reason college athletes can't is because the NCAA wants to keep their nonprofit status. They can only do that by maintaining the amateurism model.
All schools can afford to pay players. All of them. If my revenues and expenditures are going up at the same rate because money that's being generated by players is being spent on coaches and administrators and facilities, then the money to pay the players is already there. The reason that amateurism exists is because it allows the university discretion over a larger portion of the amount of revenues that get generated by the athletic department than they would otherwise have. And that discretion comes at the expense of the athletes.
Is there something contradictory about schools making money any way they can off of college sports and then not allowing the athletes, who arguably are the ones generating the money, make a profit?
Many people wonder if this is an outright exploitation. As an economist, I look at that and say, well, yes, that's exactly what they're doing.
But with the advent of NIL, the NCAA lost in front of the SCOTUS, and this NLRB memo, it's clear that the amateurism model is like Dick Cheney. Technically alive, functionally dead, and only ever existed to launder money. Athletes right now are getting paid in Bowberry biscuits and Dodge Durangos, but they still can't get a real bona fide salary. That means that they don't have the workers' protections that come with employee status. But this NLRB memo lays the groundwork for athletes to unionize and become employees who receive real salaries. So, will this arrangement continue? Is NIL enough? Athletes have already begun organizing, and it's easy to imagine that college athletes making salaries is soon to follow. And after that, the NCAA might well die. So when we call time of death on the NCAA, we don't need to despair. Somehow the nerdy lawyers have been bullying the athletes for decades. Mark Emmert made $2.9 million last year, while Cardale Jones, whose jersey I have on, won a national championship and wasn't allowed to make a cent off this. To be fair, that's because I got this jersey off AliExpress. But nobody, and I mean nobody, is buying Mark Emmert jerseys. My name is Rishi Rajagopalan, and you've been read the RIOT ACT.